Hey kids, Peter von Panda here. I want to talk to you a little bit about the GTD, Getting Things Done Productivity System by David Allen. It has changed my life. I am a huge believer in it, and I want to explain to you how I understand it works. And the way it works makes it effective. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my experiences and let you decide for yourself if this is something that you think you'll get as much value of. So first of all, GTD is a fairly new productivity system. Came out in about 2002, and this is clipped right from the website where it says, "Mind like water. Your mind is for having ideas, not for holding them." And so I think, ideally, your mind would be like a placid lake, crystal clear, calm, serene, and not constantly being peppered with problems and trauma and stress. All of those things will create ripples and disturbances in that what otherwise would be a nice serene lake. So that's what I think of when I think of mind like water. I'm not the only person who uses GTD. You may not have heard it, but I think when you run into people that do use it, they're really eager to admit that they use it and share their stories with you. I found a lot of people around my office and in life. It is certainly a growing number of people that use it, including Daniel Pink, and even like Lifehack says that it's the best productivity system they've seen. So let me just explain to you how I ended up finding out about GTD. I work for a big corporation and I was in charge of a project. I was doing pretty well at that project. I'm a very organized person. I actually used a organization system and a couple of different organizational products to keep my life organized. But as you have some success there, you'll be given additional projects, and those additional projects will exponentially increase the amount of things that you have to keep track of. And so your level of stress may actually triple, even though your workload is only doubled. And then really the critical moment came for me when I was given a third project to manage at the same time, and I was really out over my skis. I was dealing with a lot of stress, a lot of quality control problems, missed deadlines, etc., etc. And I kind of turned to a friend of mine who was also in charge of a number of projects and asked her how she was able to keep handle on them and not be stressed out and on edge all the time. And she pointed me to the GTD book, which I read, and it absolutely changed the way I handle just about everything, from not only a personal and a work perspective, but also a personal perspective. Let me explain to you how work used to be. Not that long ago, you had a singular job responsibility. You would go to work, and every day you would do your work, and when you were done at the end of the day, you would leave, and then the next day you would come back and you would pick up right where you left off. This gentleman is sewing, and the work piles up, and you just kind of plow through it. And maybe you don't have something this old-fashioned, but in many cases, when your work is based more on productivity and your attendance, you don't really have to deal with the nuance of a lot of different things happening and a lot of moving pieces. The problem is, work now is very different for almost everyone. It doesn't really matter what you do, but work is now usually a combination of micro tasks, a lot of things that are thrown at you that need a response right away. Even if you are in the fast food industry, you are given a lot of immediate things to do. Make this drink, or find this piece of food or equipment, or do this task. But then you also have these longer term projects, and some of them may be short, medium, and long term, and they may be of varying sizes, but invariably there are things that you need to be done over long periods of time, or recurring things that need to be done that you also have to manage on top of all of the smaller things. So a lot of professional work environments are a combination of these things, and this is what makes it entirely complex and very difficult to manage. If you're one of those people that addresses things as they come up, you're going to get swamped in a modern work environment very, very quickly. So let's take a look. The old system, let's say processing insurance claims, means you process a claim, you do the next one. You process a claim, you do the next one. It's just this very linear, a very manageable system because you don't need anything other than your boss to offload a work to you. In the new system, you may have at the very top there schedule client appointments, issue written business, respond to client requests. You may have all these little things that come in and need to be addressed quickly, but they're not part of a grand scheme of business building. On the other hand, you may have projects that are about building the business, hiring new sales reps, marketing to prospects, buying new technology. Maybe you have another project just streamlining your office and looking for projects that will improve your systems. And then client projects, maybe new marketing projects, new trade shows that you have to go to, and working with vendors, et cetera, et cetera. So you're going to have a combination of short-term, long-term, mid-term projects and micro tasks that are coming at you all day long. So that's the difference. It's a pretty big difference, and you've got to realize that the old way of staying organized, even the old way of staying organized prior to the iPhone, prior to the computer, the further out you go, the more antiquated and outdated and irrelevant your original productivity systems are going to be. So the key, though, is understanding how the mind works. And the mind is great at tackling problems as they're presented and identifying tasks. It's also great at being creative. For instance, I like telling people, if I give you my time, I will help you with whatever you need, but I don't want homework. And the reason is, I don't want you to give me something where I have to go back and address it later. That's putting additional responsibility on me. But if you just serve me up the problem, I'm happy to tackle it and troubleshoot it with you or work on it and accomplish things. The mind is great at working and being challenged. What the mind is terrible at is recalling tasks on demand, keeping track of time, recalling details a long ways off. I'd say recalling details that maybe are recent. Have you ever been asked, what did you have for breakfast, and you can't remember? Or did you talk to this client on Monday? That sounds vaguely familiar. The mind isn't really good at recalling things out of inventory on demand. For example, how many times have you gotten in your car and you said, I got to take those files into my car, into the office. But then you'll get to the office and you realize, oh man, I forgot to bring in those files. Those are really good examples of how the mind works. When it sees the problem, it recognizes it and knows what to do. But when it's asked to attack that problem at a point in the future, it's really bad at recalling that. In fact, I had dinner with a friend of mine and I said, oh my gosh, I've got a parking meter. I've got to remember to feed it in an hour. And we both forgot, right? I mean, it's not that multiple minds are better at collaborating and keeping track of time. The mind is just bad at that. So a lot of stuff goes into your mind, but a lot of things get lost coming out. And that's fundamentally the problem. And in fact, a little statistic I recently heard is that throughout the day, the average mind will have 60 to 80,000 thoughts. And that's everything from, is my bowl of cereal now as high as it can be? Do I put this in the sink or the dishwasher? Do I have enough gas to get to work? Your mind is constantly thinking. I mean, that's just the nature of it. It very rarely shuts off and you just zone out, although I like doing that too. But you're going to have, your mind is constantly processing and crunching on problems and addressing things. It's just kind of part of surviving. I also read a book called Barber Pilot, and one of the things that Dan Hampton says in that is he is a pilot of a combat aircraft, and he says that less than 1% of the Air Forces are actually pilots. Everyone else is logistics. It doesn't matter what else you do. His idea was that, or his thoughts were, everyone else is logistics. They're overhead to make sure that pilots can prosecute their targets. And if you think about that, of all the work that it goes, that is required in order to put a bomb on target, the guys who refuel planes, the guys who put munitions on, the guys who in-flight refuel, a war plan, and strategize, and all this other stuff, there's all these people doing all of this detail and all of this behind-the-scenes work for a singular task. And the mind is much like that. The mind is great at attacking a problem, but it's terrible at a lot of everything else. So what you want to do is give your mind the capability to focus on problem solving and relieve it of everything else. The mind is a problem solving machine, it is not a file cabinet, and there's a big differentiation between the two. So you want to be able to give the mind the pleasure of constantly working in its flow, but you want to offload all of the mundane work of being able to recall details, recall information, and remember to do things at certain times. So, what's the key here? The key is capturing the information, the requests, the tasks, the data, all of the things that come into your life from a work and personal perspective need to be captured somewhere other than the. So, one of the things that is going to be kind of critical to GTD is the idea of an inbox. So the old school inbox is fantastic because people used to come in your office, drop things off into the inbox, and you knew where they were. The inbox isn't a great system for sorting and figuring out where things need to go or getting work done, but you know that everything that came in is in that inbox, so you don't have to worry about it. Likewise, you need an inbox for everything else, and it's probably not going to be a physical inbox. It's probably going to be a digital inbox of some sort, but you need a place to collect everything, whether it's email that comes in, ideas that just pop into your mind, things in your personal life, phone calls, work meetings. It doesn't really matter what it is, it's just got to go somewhere. You've got to collect them all in one place. For example, why don't people use this inbox method? You might say, Pete, it's pretty easy, when you put it that way, to collect everything. Why don't people do it? Well, I think the fundamental reason why people don't do it is they think they have to collect a lot of detail along with it. And that's the opposite of what's actually true. All you need to do is capture enough information so that you can come back at a later point in time and know what it's about. So, for example, whether it's a movie I want to see, something I need to put on my shopping list, a piece of a task for work, a book I want to read, a request from church, an article, whatever it is, I dump it into my inbox. And in fact, I use a system called Wunderlist, which is available on multiple platforms. It's an online GTD based task list, but the key is just dump it there. You don't put a lot of detail with it. You don't have to select dates. You don't have to select projects. You don't have to do anything except capture it all so that you can come back to it at a later date. I call it input deflection. I used to call this brain dumping, and then I realized that's not what it is. Brain dumping would tend to suggest that you're putting a lot of stuff in your brain, and then at certain times you're relieving your brain of it, and you're purging it all out and putting it in a system. That's wrong because it's still making the system dependent on your brain, which is going to be the bottleneck and the weak link. What you want is input deflection. Every time you receive a piece of input, you want to deflect it into your inbox. So you want to capture it as it comes in. So a lot of times when people come to my office and ask me for something, I don't stop what I'm doing. I just turn to my Wunderlist or whatever system you're going to use, and I just type it as they're asking right in there, and then I turn away and I continue to work on the project or the task that I was working on. All I'm trying to do is capture it so that I don't even have to think about it the moment they stop talking. How is that practical, Pete? You're not always in front of your computer. Well, you don't always have to go into your core task management system at that moment. So in fact, a lot of times during meetings, I write the task on a notepad. You can write them on a napkin and shove it in your pocket. You can text it to yourself. In fact, I have a system where if I send it to a specific number, it'll go directly into my Wunderlist. You can email it in. You can leave yourself voicemail. I know a lot of people use a lot of different varieties. You just have to get it somewhere out of your brain where you can go ahead and grab it and put it in. Now, when I'm done with a meeting and I have 6 or 7 tasks written down on my notepad, when I get back to my desk, I type them in. If I'm sitting in a bar and I have a great idea, I'll write it on a napkin and put it in my pocket. When I get home and pull that napkin out, I will go ahead and type it into my iPhone or type it into my computer, whatever. Once you do that, The rest is pretty simple. There are really 5 core steps to the GTD system: capturing everything, clarifying, organizing, reflecting, and engaging on it. Once you get to the engage, you're really just checking off things. So you're putting your mind right in the flow where it wants to be. It wants to be presented with problems that it has the expertise to tackle, and it gets a lot of juice and energy from that. But the foundation to it all is step number 1, capturing it. If you can do that, step 2, 3, 4, and 5 all make perfect sense. So start right now, find a system. A lot of systems out there and task management systems are based on GTD. I did a video a number of years back on how Wunderlist is used. It's not outdated, although Wunderlist has gone through some evolutions. But if you go back and find that, it's basically fundamentally the same, and Wunderlist actually looks very much the same still. But the key here is capturing input deflection from the requester into your system so that it only passes briefly through the brain. That's the key. And if you do that, I think you're going to find a lot of success from the GTD system. And I hope you find much peace of mind and happiness and lower stress levels. Peter Von Panda, out.